And we are here. We are live on a Thursday morning, and we are going to be talking about the new executive order that just dropped. Yes, you heard me right. There is a new executive order, and it is targeting our favorite pastime, printing firearms. It's targeting other stuff, but printing firearms is one of the big things. So this is breaking news. So it gets that breaking news sound.
Breaking news! Breaking news!
All right. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be uh, doing a little bit of screen sharing here, and I'm going to pull up the stuff, and we can go ahead and take a look at it. So let me just get this all going in the background here. Flying Rich looks like he is coming in as well. So let's go ahead and let me just add one more thing here, then we'll get into it. Once Flying Rich connects, we'll go live. We're already live, but you know what I'm talking about. So just give me 1 second here. All right. He's not on quite yet, but let's just go ahead. I'm going to bring us over here. You can see where he's trying to connect. And there he is. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I was on the phone with our source from the story yesterday that we couldn't do.
Okay. Well, we're doing this story. So
what's going on?
So Biden announced a new executive order, and it attacks Glock switches, which is whatever, but it also attacks 3D printing. So we're going.
So does that mean all my printers need to go burr?
Yes, they do. They definitely need to go burr. So let me just what are you? Can't switch mode when are you in mobile?
Yeah, I'm mobile.
Okay.
I'm also vertical. You want me to change horizontal?
No, it's fine.
New software, folks.
Yeah. So that's not gonna work. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and readjust this a little bit here. I'm gonna go to dynamics.
Okay.
And let's
say, if you're going to ask me to read that, that's going to be magical. I got the big text. Fact sheet. Hold on, let me flip sideways. Oh, all right. Today, President Biden and Vice President Harris are announcing a new executive order directing federal agencies to improve. All right, I'm just going to read it. School-based active shooter drills in combat the emerging threats of machine gun conversion devices in unserialized 3D printed firearms, as well as additional executive actions that advance the Biden-Harris administration's agenda to reduce gun violence and save lives. After the prior administration oversaw the largest one-year increase in murders ever recorded, I don't know if I can read this. President Biden and Vice President Harris took action from the start of their administration to reduce violent crime. The president and vice president helped deliver over $15 billion in funding through American Rescue Plan for law enforcement, community violence interventions, and other public safety strategies. By the middle of 2022, Biden-Harris administration had already announced more executive actions to reduce gun violence than any other administration. Then on June 25th, 2022, President Biden signed into law the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was barely bipartisan, the most significant gun violence prevention law in nearly 30 years that almost did nothing. On September 22nd, 23, to deliver further progress, President Biden established the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Was it overseen by Harris? Oh, it was.
Yes.
Oh gosh, this is a comedy sketch. Under the leadership President Biden and Vice President Harris in the 23, United States experienced the single largest homicide rate drop in recent history. That's because they're not reporting key cities to the FBI. The reduction in homicide has accelerated this year. Data submitted to the Department of Justice shows that the homicide rate dropped another 17% from January through June.
Yeah, they
Oh,
cooked the
talk
numbers.
about cookbooks.
We're not going to talk about this right now, though.
Oh my,
We're gonna focus
compared to the
on.
same period in 23, data from the Gun Violence Archive indicates the number of mass shootings so far this year is 20% lower than
Then I guess
it
we don't need any
was
more golf, so that's good.
this year.
All right. Well, okay. Let's just read the executive action because you're getting off on.
I'm sorry, this comedy sketch is
All right,
amazing.
just read.
Combating emerging firearm threats in April 21, one of the Biden-Harris administration's first executive actions to reduce gun violence was to address the emerging threat of firearms without serial numbers, often known as ghost guns. To expand the efforts, ATF established an Emerging Threats Center. The center focuses on the ATF's resources on identifying developments in illicit firearm marketplaces, including the use of technologies to make unlawfully distribute undetectable firearms and devices that convert semi-automatic firearms to illegal machine guns.
You can make your own firearms. That's not illegal.
Right, right. Now, President Biden and Vice President Harris are taking additional action on two emerging firearm threats: machine gun conversion devices and unserialized 3D printed firearms. Machine gun conversion devices enable semi automatic firearms, increasingly easy concealable handguns, to match or exceed the rate of fire of many military machine guns with single engagement of the trigger up to 20 bullets in 1 second. From 2017 to 2021, ATF recovered almost 5,500 of these
Maybe
devices.
they should make those devices illegal.
Like murder and shooting people. 570% increase, because we categorized what a ghost gun is. Over the previous 5-year period, machine gun conversion devices are illegal to possess under federal law, but we continue to see these devices show up at crime scenes because they are small, cheap, and easy to install. Machine gun conversion devices are often illegally imported or illegally made on 3D printer from computer code found online. The 3D printing of a machine gun conversion device costs as little as 40 cents and takes fewer than 30 minutes.
I thought they said the ATF said it takes 38 minutes.
No, yeah. Who cares about facts when you're writing executive orders? Unserialized 3D printed firearms can be used for illegal purposes, such as gun trafficking, unlawful possession by people convicted of felonies, or subject to domestic violence restraining orders, or unlawfully engaging in the business of manufacturing or selling firearms. These 3D printed from computer code downloaded from the internet and produced without serial numbers that law enforcement uses to trace firearms recovered in criminal investigations. Some 3D printed firearms can be made to be I'm sorry, undetectable by magnetometers and
but
used in secure airports, courts, houses.
isn't the bullets themselves, the rounds themselves, metal? I guess the bullet doesn't have to be, but the round has to be metal. The casing.
Wow. So are they watching Die Hard?
I guess so.
Magnetometers
The word about
used
the
to
Glock
secure,
7s.
yeah, the Glock 7. Secure airports, courthouses, event spaces, even though these undetectable firearms are illegal to make, sell, possess under federal law, as 3D printing technology continues to develop rapidly, the safety threat posed by 3D printed firearms may suddenly increase. And in this executive order, Biden is establishing an emerging firearms threats task force consisting of leadership from key federal departments and agencies. Biden is directing the task force to issue a report within 90 days that includes the assessment of threat posed by machine gun conversion devices and unserialized 3D printed firearms, an assessment of federal agencies' operational and legal capacities to direct, intercept, and seize machine gun conversion devices and unserialized 3D printed firearms.
Which are not illegal.
Interagency plan for combating these emerging threats. The report will include any additional authorities or funding or federal agency. It's a money grab from Congress to order complete this work. I'm sorry.
Then they're
Improving
gonna go. Then they're gonna go into improving active shooter drills, whatever.
blah.
Uh,
I
encouraging
know
safe
I know how to improve
firearm,
active shooter drills. Shoot back.
clarifying Medicaid reimbursement for counseling on firearm safety. This is interesting.
Oh, no way. Clarifying Medicaid reimbursement for counseling on firearm safety. Health systems, hospitals, and healthcare workers are essential component of a healthy gun violence prevention and intervention system. By the end of October, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services will announce states may choose to use Medicaid to pay healthcare provider for counseling parents and caregivers on firearm safety and injury prevention.
So
This announcement
they're basically gonna pay these people to push an anti-gun agenda.
this announcement will build the coverage that Medicaid provides for anticipatory guidance, in other words, pre-crime, which is health education and counseling to help parents and caregivers understand and improve the health and development of children. For example, Bright Futures, American Academy for Pediatrics, guidelines include firearm safety guidance such as safe storage guidance and recommended anticipatory guidance for pediatricians to provide to parents. Oh boy, implementing state red flag laws. The Department of Justice announcing over 135 million in formula awards to 48 states under the Burn State Crisis Intervention, whatever, which provides funding for implementation of extreme risk protection orders, red flag programs, state crisis intervention court proceedings, and related programs, initiatives, implementation of red flag laws is supported by National Extreme Risk Protection Resource Center.
Yeah, so basically they're gonna
Money grab.
drive cities to take away your Fourth Amendment rights.
Funding community violence intervention in furtherance of the Biden-Harris administration strategy to invest in community violence intervention as proven solution to prevent gun violence. The Department of Justice is announcing an additional $85 million in funding through Community Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative.
All right, stop right there. If you don't know what this is how the government funnels money to groups like Everytown and Giffords. If you ever wonder why they have so much money, this is.
Can we start one of these groups and get in on the money grab?
Probably not right now, but go ahead.
This funding will help 30 agencies and organizations develop and expand community violence intervention work, including hospital-based violence intervention, street outreach, and cognitive behavioral therapy. These strategies, essential elements to law enforcement, and this investment, part of the $400 million total funding that the Biden-Harris administration secured for BLAH, is only part of how the administration funds community violence interventions. The fact sheet lists
We're not
full range.
going to go with the fact sheet right now.
Clarifying Medicaid reimbursement for violence intervention. CMS previously clarified that states may authorize health care providers to be reimbursed by Medicaid for violence intervention programs. In October, CMS expects to proactively raise clarification with states. CMS also explore how to convene state governments and health care providers on importing Medicaid benefits to violence prevention programs, improving the gun background check system. Oh crap, 4473, here we come. Facilitating enhanced background checks for individuals under the age of 21. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act established enhanced background checks for individuals under the age of 21 trying to purchase a firearm. These enhanced checks have already stopped 900 transitions with false positives, keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. By a number of states across the country have privacy laws that prevent state officials from fully responding to enhanced background check inquiries. The Biden-Harris administration's Safer State agenda made fixing this issue a top priority for states in Connecticut, Vermont, Nevada, Texas, and Kentucky have all recently made the necessary changes. Today, the Department of Justice issuing model legislation that additional states may use to inform their own legislation and allow a carve out to share juvenile records solely for the purpose of enhanced background checks. In addition, the Justice Department releasing information on whether state laws permit information sharing with regard to juvenile records for the purposes of enhanced background checks. Wow. Big Brother's watching. Maximizing the enhanced background check with red flag laws. Part of the enhanced background check requires requesting records from state and local enforcement and mental health repositories about potential purchasers under 21. In these other circumstances, if a person shows clear signs of being in crisis and danger to themselves or others, they may qualify for consideration under applicable red flag laws, which would generally result in a person being ineligible to possess or receive a firearm by October 22nd. The Extreme Risk Protection Order National Resource Center will provide training and the local law enforcement on extreme risk protection order process, including how it intersects with individuals under 21. Improving the federal gun background check system. Enhanced background checks for gun purchasers under 21 and the laws narrowing the boyfriend loophole along with the expanding number of
Okay,
states.
let's start with the boyfriend loophole. The boyfriend loophole is, let's say that your boyfriend or girlfriend is violent. They can't own a gun for whatever reason. They want to take away your ability to own a gun. Even if you break up and that person's a danger to you, they don't want you to have the ability to have a gun, which means if the person is a danger to you, they're gonna make it even. They're gonna take away your defense.
So wait. Bad dude, good girl. She can't buy a gun because he's a bad dude.
Yeah,
They break up. He's a bad dude with a gun, but she can't get a gun to protect herself because he's a bad dude with a gun, and they were dating.
Yeah.
Wow.
keep on going.
Purchases boyfriend loophole, along with the expanding number of states with red flag laws, are placing new challenges on the state and local agencies attempting to ascertain what records they need to send to the federal gun background check system to address the challenges. There needs to be a system-wide improvement of new era of collaboration among the entities engaging with the federal gun background check system. By December 15th, Department of Justice official justice programs will have evaluated the existing grant programs that support improvements to gun background check systems and make any changes needed to support the states looking to improve their record systems, which may include lengthening the duration of grants where appropriate. More money grant. Wow. Expanding data on gun violence and gun trafficking, publishing additional data on ghost gun trends and firearms trafficking. This winter, ATF will publish the fourth volume of its National Firearms Commerce and Trafficking Assessment. This volume will provide an update on ghost gun trends and trafficking investigations, as well as expanded information on machine gun conversion devices. Expanding collection of gun violence data. There is a lack of reliable and timely data on gun deaths and gunshot injuries that show what is happening nationwide in individual communities. This data critical to focusing investment and enforcement efforts. Today, the FBI is announcing that it will collect additional detail. In its data collection for gunshot injury wounds, the National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS, by the June 2025, the FBI will be implementing new injury code to reflect gunshot wound in the NIBRS victim segment. NIBRS will also enable enforcement agencies to submit additional details as to how firearms were used in the specific crimes and the nature of the crime at issue. Wow, improving data on gunshot injuries. Centers for Disease Control Prevention is improving a data visualization tool to, in other words, another chart, to present gun death injury and data faster and at a more local level using data from vital statistics in emergency rooms. At the local level, they can help inform prevention strategies and evaluate effectiveness of programs. Supporting survivors of gun violence, addressing the trauma resulting from gun violence. This fall, the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration will take additional action to support individuals dealing with the trauma that results from gun violence, will release best practices for local offices of violence prevention to use in addressing trauma resulting from gun violence, a tip sheet for individuals affected by gun violence, a tip sheet, individual affected by gun violence who may be seeking more information, the behavioral health impacts of gun violence and how to seek help, a report on lessons learned from the federal recast grant programs to uplift voices of communities impacted by violence, as well as share strategies other communities can implement to promote healing, recovery, resiliency, and a toolkit for faith-based leaders, educators, and other leaders to help communities affect the trauma resulting from gun violence.
Basically produce propaganda and help them get propaganda out.
Yeah, we're giving money for propaganda. Ensuring appropriate disposition of firearms seized by law enforcement. You mean so they don't get stolen from the ATF? Firearms or firearm parts that were presumed to be destroyed by law enforcement have been showing up in crimes. Sometimes the guns recovered by law enforcement are sent to third party that only partially destroys them. By October 30, the Department of Justice will refresh and clarify the best practices for federal law enforcement disposition of seized firearms, including when working with in partnership with state and local law enforcement. The Department of Justice will also release a plan to offer new training and education for state and local partners on safe and appropriate firearm disposition.
I bought a weapons locker like a evidence locker box of firearms one time. And I showed Patrick where to get them from, but now you have to be an FFL before you didn't.
Aha. Facilitating voluntary out of home storage to prevent firearm suicide. Wow. Voluntary out of home storage firearms is an effective tactic to save lives by creating time and space between a person in crisis and firearms. A number of states, including Colorado, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, have developed gun storage maps to show different locations where a gun owner can voluntarily store their firearms. A federally funded program has developed a model.
Yeah, but why not use something like Hold My Guns or something like
Right,
that? It's
right,
all done
right.
privately and
Yes.
without government money.
Yeah. Guidelines, contracts, and standard operating procedures for businesses interested in providing this option. Today, the Department of Veteran Affairs in Samasha, whatever, are using their network of teams committed to preventing veteran suicide, known as the Governor's Challenge, to prevent suicide among service members, veterans, and families, to encourage states to convince federally licensed gun dealers around offending out of home storage to our nation's heroes and their families. Congress must
I
act.
want to come back because I have an interesting story.
Scroll up, please. Congress must act while the Biden Harris. And I got to add, I've never seen Biden Harris in an executive order, but now that Harris is running for president, it's Biden Harris. Administration gun violence prevention actions are saving lives, we think. There is much more to do. President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to call on Congress to enact common sense gun safety legislation. Um, from assault weapon bans to bump stocks, universal background checks, to repeal gun manufacturers' immunity from liability, and to enact federal safe storage and red flag laws, and fully fund community violence intervention programs at the Bureau of ATF. Yeah.
All right. I didn't want to
Holy.
this comment right there, but the
Okay.
DOD does nothing against Amazon selling used hard drives as new or refurbished, not even erased. That is true. And I have a story where I never really shared because I didn't want to share it because I wanted the hard drives. But I did buy a server with hard drives in it. This is supposed to come with non-populated hard drives. I mean, this is like a rack-mounted server, so it's not like it's an industrial
Data
scale
center server.
data center server, and it had the hard drives in there. Even though I was not able to access, I didn't try to access the information on there, but it was the hard drives had information on there, and by looking at it, I didn't decrypted it or anything. But you want to tell them where the hard drives came from?
Wasn't it like Government Department of Defense?
Yeah, DoD.
So I I worked in medical facilities and we had a policy like first off, no one was allowed in the data center. Even I wasn't allowed in the data center. No hard drives, even under warranty, were allowed to leave the data center
Yeah,
without being crushed. We had a hydraulic ram that would destroy any drive. Like no drive was allowed to leave the
yeah,
data center unless it was chunks.
yeah. When I worked for the government and State Department, the hard drive would be ground and then burned. So they would grind it up into like little, like confetti-sized pieces, and then they would incinerate them.
Wow.
But I don't know how that happened. But let's get back to this. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Just
I,
remember the story. Sorry.
so the I'm reading through this, and I wish I was taking notes as I was going through this. But it seems like they're throwing around money to Bloomberg, gun grabbing organizations. They're throwing around money to promote propaganda. They're throwing around money. Also, this is a campaign ad for Biden, Harris. And like I said moments ago, I've never seen an executive order where it said Biden and Harris. It always would say the Biden administration. Do you recall anything different than that?
No.
So this is obviously a change in how they issue executive orders for the purpose of promoting Harris to win the campaign. This is a campaign ad. Um, a lot of these, it's to generate propaganda, to distribute propaganda, to throw money at anti-gun organizations like Bloomberg. Worse yet, the quote unquote safe storage at government locations or locations the government knows about. So I'm assuming the next step is if I'm storing my guns remotely at some location the government deems and I get a red flag law, they just know where to go to get my guns without me being
Basically.
around.
That's why they
I,
want to
that
have, because there are programs like that, and I do believe that we need programs where if you're in crisis or whatever, that you should be able to take your guns to safely store them.
look,
I don't think that should be. I think this should be 100% voluntary, and I think
yes.
that it should be ran by private organizations like Hold My Guns. I do not believe that it should be ran by the government.
And an organization like Hold My Gun should be funded. I think they're doing God's work. I've taken my guns to be stored at other locations when there were issues, and likewise, I've at least two times stored friends' firearms because they needed them off their property for varying reasons. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I stored my friend's firearms because he was going through a nasty divorce, and he,
Mhm.
uh, and his
I
wife
I
was a
I
cop. And
stored my friend's firearms because somebody in his family was crazy and unknown to him got an order of protection against him. And there was nothing wrong with him. It was just crazy in the family.
yeah, well, yeah, my friend was he was just worried that his crazy uh soon to be ex-wife was going to red flag him. So
Hmm. Hmm.
because she was starting to do that, even though he wasn't a danger or anything like that. But yeah,
Wow,
it's
wow.
definitely interesting, and they're gonna go after 3D printed firearms. They really didn't say how they're gonna do that, but they keep on saying they're being illicitly printed, and they're using the Die Hard 2 example of, "Hey, we're they're
There,
undetectable," which is not exactly true. Even if you have an all plastic gun, the rounds are still metal.
yeah. And even though, so pretty much to my knowledge, the only firearms that have been printed that are all plastic are 22 caliber and usually capable.
Well, the Liberator was 38.
Liberator was 38. Oh, okay.
38 ACP.
And that was single shot.
Single shot, yeah.
So that's the original, as far as we know, firearm developed by Cody Wilson. Um, the so accuracy and round count are typically incredibly low on a device that's fully 3D printed out of plastic that's undetectable by metal detectors. Nobody wants that. It is a novelty, but nobody wants that.
But I think you had,
Uh,
like, the Sparrow and a few others.
yeah. Um, typically people like me would print something that uses a Glock action and a Glock metal barrel that's fully detectable by any kind of metal detector.
It's the whole Glock 7 thing again.
Yeah, yeah, that never existed.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what someone should do? I'm not gonna do it, but someone should do it. You just go print out a bunch of Yankee Boogles and just like Johnny Appleseed, something like Johnny Yankee Boogle, and just drop Yankee Boogles everywhere.
Fly my drone, dropping Yankee Boogles across federal buildings,
Yeah, well, Walmart drone
parking
just got
lots.
shot down, so there's that.
Oh, so porcelain, yes. Um, in the United States, typically you can't fly a drone beyond visual range unless you have basically a paperwork saying that you can. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, it's
And
a FAA waiver.
yeah, waiver. Thank you. So some organizations, Walmart, Amazon, are doing that, which is kind of cool.
Well, in Florida, a Walmart drone got shot down. It
How do you
lowered it
do it?
da it lowered the package down, and some guy thought it was, he thought it was I don't know, it's this old guy, there's an interview with him, and when there's actually body cam footage, and of the cop talking to him, and he thought it was, like, doing something illicit, so he got a shotgun 'cause he thought it was from another country and shot it down. Florida. It was a Walmart drone delivering a package. But yeah, that is definitely interesting. But this whole thing is interesting. They're going after 3D printing. If Kamala gets elected, the great Kamala from WWE gets elected, um, then we're gonna get more of this crap. It's one of the reasons why you need to get out there and vote. I don't know what Richie was doing, but he just left, so I don't know. When it comes, I'll bring him back on. But yeah, so this is the reason why we all need to vote. And if we don't vote, then we're going to get more of this crap. So it's a very, very important. I have already voted, and you should too. This is just a warning that they're going after our stuff, our 3D printers. First, they came for the bump stocks. Then they came for the printers, and I had nothing. First, they came from the bump stocks, and I said nothing. Then they came for the 3D printers, and I said nothing. And then they came for me. I kind of like stylized it a little bit, but that is what's going on, guys. Just wanted to let you know. And Rich, Rich was embarrassed that you told his drone shooting story. With that, we're out of here, and I will see you guys. Is it, in fact, possible to have a completely non-metal? I guess you can use like exotic materials, but it's nothing commercially available. All right, guys, that is it, and I will see you guys later. Have fun.